Okay. Welcome everybody. First of all, it's my great pleasure to introduce. Okay, first of all, who I am. I am Ignacio Ochoa. I'm a professor here in the Faculty of Medicine and also, yes, founder of two companies, Beyond Chip and Everest Medical Technology. And it's my great pleasure today introduce you Juan Pablo Agusil Antonov. And Juan Pablo is a biomedical engineer with a strong foundation in nanoscience and bioengineering. After earning a bachelor degree in biomedical engineering from the Ibero-American University, he pursued a master and PhD in nanoscience at the University of Barcelona, specializing in nanotechnology applications for biomedicine. With a research fellowship at the Institute of Bioengineering of Catalonia, the IBEC Center, and later working at the Institute of Microelectronics of Barcelona, IMB CNM. He has continued developing miniaturized devices to tackle technological challenges. As a co-founder of A4Cell, Juan Pablo is committed to advancing cell-based technologies and creating impactful solutions at the intersection of nanoscience and biomedicine. And he is going to talk today about a spin-off by Serendipity. So, Juan Pablo, thank you for coming. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, all of you.
Maybe you can start.
Yeah, is it fine here? Thank you for being here. I know that it's a very weird day because tomorrow is a holiday. So thank you. I'm Juan Pablo Agusil, as Jackie just told you. And this is a kind of a story of how we, as a group, founded a company that is now called A4Cells Nanodevices. And everything started to click very slowly at the beginning and then very fast. And most of the time, we didn't have a lot of control of this clicking of the things that are happening. So that's why I call it a spin-off by Serendipity. So a first thing that we have to understand is, well, to define is what is serendipity. And it's the development of a happy or a beneficial thing that happens in your life. So you could argue that it isn't like good luck. And then good luck, it's very random. And serendipity, you have to have a little bit of insight. You have to acknowledge that something good is happening. You find 20 euros in the floor, that is random. But then if you understand, if you find a new article that is going to help you, that is serendipity, because you know that you can apply it. That is the main differences between good luck and serendipity. We have to think about it with serendipity. I come from, this is where I work, is the Micro and Nano Tools group at the IMB, at the Microelectronics Institute of Barcelona. It's a multidisciplinary group. And we focus right now in MEMS and NEMS, that's micro electromechanical systems, and at the nanoscale also. And we come together, physicists, engineers, material science, to apply it into micro and nano fabrication. We design, we simulate these devices, and we mix it, just to make it a little bit harder, we sprinkle a little chemistry on these kind of devices. I'm very lucky because I work in the clean room, in the micro and nano fabrication clean room at the Institute. It's the biggest one in Spain and Southern Europe. It's 1,200 square meters. So this is one of the sites. This is, for example, a photolithography room. And this is another part. This is you can make implantations with those devices. So it is a very big and specialized clean room. And the government or the CSIC defines it as a unique scientific and technological infrastructure. It's like those big ships that go to Antarctica. It's as big as one, well, technologically speaking, it's as big as one of those ships. So it is very important to define that we are doing work in a public institute that has this infrastructure. That is very expensive, but it's also very promising. So it is, I'm quite proud of being working there. So I told you I work in the Micro Nano Tools group, and we have a mindset that's a little bit weird, because if you want to do something that is impactful, it can also be very risky. So you can stay here in the comfort zone, and you can continue advancing science, but it's what we call just low risk and low potential. You are going to get the results are going to be very predictable, are going to be tiny, and they're almost always are going to come out. Then as far as you guys, the more you move into risk, you can start to develop or use previous science to develop your new science. and the risk starts to increasing until it becomes so challenging that it is not easy to get into these areas, but that is when you get a big breakthrough. So our mindset is like set up in this like fuzzy region between increment science and breakthrough. No? So taking something that has been developed, making it better, and sometimes just getting a little bit ahead of the curve that it's everyone around. And in this, in my specialty is combining the biomedical applications of this mindset with micro and nanotechnologies, with biology, chemistry, and biology. So talking about biology, I specialize in working in living cells. They're tiny, they're alive, they're sensitive, and it's complicated to handle them if you want to study each cell individually. So what do you want to do when you have a cell? Do you want to study? At what size do you have the devices that you're going to study with these cells? It has to be alive, of course, if you want to understand how cells behave. And how are you going to get the information that the cells are providing to your device? So these are some of the questions. And that's not the font, but well, the font now is this one. So what parameters are we going to measure? Is it like how strong a cell is? So mechanical forces. The biomedical components are included in the cell, like what's inside that is making the cells, or just to identify what kind of cells. No? So that is the study. The second part is that size matters. So are we going to study it from the outside? Are we going to try to enter into a cell and study it from the inside? Or do we want a bunch of cells? So it's a tissue. No? Then compatibility. In this part is, are we going to kill the cells when we study them? Is it interesting for us to maintain the cells alive, to extract all the information without killing it? So we require, well, to understand that if we measure it, we can kill it by the measurement, not just the device, but the measurement. You can electrocute it or heat it or freeze it, and then the cell dies. If the material that you're using, is it toxic? Is it like a metal that is going to leach certain ions and then it's going to interact with the inside of the cell and it's going to like kill it? So that is why it's very important, the biocompatibility of our devices. And lastly, is like, okay, we were able to put something inside a cell and it's not killing it. How do we extract information that we want? No? The deformation or the biomedical interface. So, well, you can emit light, you can create a chemical pathway, or you can have your devices that have a certain structure that moves inside the cell. No? So following these kind of studies, there are two ways. I'm going to go a little bit fast because I'm telling you all of this so that you can understand how our company was developed. So you have the extracellular devices. You have big devices that are bigger than the size of a cell, or small ones, no? Like nanoparticles, microchips, or nanosystems that are in the microscale. All of this technology, as you know here with your clean room, we use semiconductor technology. So it's planar technology with deposits, photolithographies, etchings, etc. So chat is talking.
No.
It was perfect. So I cannot see the title.
Extracellular devices.
Let me try to.
Oh,
Should I close here?
yeah. Just leave it there and it will just go.
Well, as I told you, there's like intracellular and extracellular devices. So usually, if you want to study with a cell with an extracellular device, you develop like probes that can touch the outside of the cell, or something that is quite small that can pierce the cell and then measure from the inside. Of course, well, you're piercing a cell with a thing. It is thin for you, but for the cell it's huge. So you're basically torturing the poor little cell. So you work in the Nanoscience Institute. This is an AFM tip. This is the zoom of an AFM tip. And it is important to understand that whether this is a micro-sized device, the tip is quite nano. No? So the interaction between the nano dimensions is the part where we are interested in developing, not the small one. So how do we fabricate an AFM tip? I don't know if you know in here, but it's planar technology, as I told you. Usually, or as we used to do it, is that you have some silicon dioxide on top of a silicon and there's a sandwich. You do some patterning with photolithography, and you define a tiny little piece of the photoresist. And you make your first etching. So you generate the silicon dioxide as a mask. And then afterwards, you create an anisotropic etching. You remove everything that is exposed, except the thing that is underneath this little capsule or little part of silicon dioxide. You just have to picture this in 3D now. So it's like, this looks like a cone or a pyramid. And eventually, well, you can remove the silicon and the silicon oxide, and then you have an FAM tip. So what I want you to keep in mind or bear in mind is this part of the technology. So remember this, the little pyramid underneath the silicon oxide chip. Well, these extracellular devices, for example, some years ago, where now I'm working, they developed these devices to make super ultra sharp AFM tips, so you can see the little details in cells, or these probes that were milled by focused ion beam to pierce embryos in this case, no? to study the inside of the embryos. And so as you can see, well, these are very big devices. You can do only basically mechanical analysis with it. You can see the outside of the cell, or if you're piercing, it's a very damaging process to the cell. So we came to an idea to develop chips that are smaller than a cell, and that can go on top of the cell to like measure it from the outside, or directly inside the cell. So you can, if you can imagine, this is a like HeLa cell, no? It's a cervical cancer cell. They measure around 30 micrometers in diameter. So these chips have to be very small. No? So that is the first challenge that we have. I'm gonna try, if I click here, do you think it's gonna disappear?
Let's try.
There we go.
Okay, here we go. Thanks.
So just, well, because you know about nanoscience, how do we fabricate these polysilicon chips? Simple dummy chips. You have polysilicon, you pattern it with photolithography, then you attack the exposed polysilicon, you do an etching. Both of these material is silicon oxide. You can remove the upper layer and then dissolve the underneath layer. So you have microparticles that are suspended. It's quite challenging to work. It took like 10 years to develop that thing. Why? Because I don't know, you don't know, but things at the nanoscale like to stick together. They like to do things that you don't want them to do. So one of the first things that happens is like agglomeration. You have like, instead of microparticles, you have like a bunch of silicon pieces. The other thing is that you're using HF acid to dissolve the silicon oxide. That is very, very damaging to cells, well, to our body and to cells. So it was very complicated to develop this technique, but eventually we, working at this group, it was developed. And with this kind of chips, you can create like different shapes, this kind of barcodes for tagging the cells to identify where the cells are in a culture. In this case, it was also injected in, well, it was not injected, but this one was located outside mouse embryos or even human embryos to identify, for example, in an in vitro, when they want to fertilize in vitro these embryos, sometimes they misplace them. So this was the idea, to put little taggings all around the embryo, so you know that you're like fertilizing the correct one, and you don't get to have the wrong baby implanted into the parents. So it was a good idea. Or you can, all of these kind of chips, they remain outside the cell. But sometimes we want to measure inside the cell. So as I told you, these are very dummy chips. These are very simple. They don't serve oh, beautiful.
Better?
I think it's better. Thank you very much. They work as we call it a dummy chip. It's just to try if our technology is going to be useful in the future. No? So that's why these papers are a little bit old, but it shows how much it took just to develop this kind of technology. And well, we have been very, well, not lucky, but well, it has been a lot of work. And we've been able to have very good publications. Nature Nanotechnology, Nature Material, this a couple of years ago, that Advanced Materials. And the things that, as you can see, the chips have become a little bit more complicated. This is a pressure sensor, so it can sense the mechanical deformation of this material when it's inside a living cell. Over there, with this little like we call it HCOM, this comes. It's a mechanical sensor to detect how the forces inside an embryo when it starts to divide. And that last one it's an alternative that it was developed in the group to create mechanical drugs. Instead of having chemical drugs to alter the function of the cells, it's like, what happens if you put that ninja star inside of a cell? Most of them die. So, because it's big. But, our work is something like this. You have a culture, and then you have all these mechanical drugs affecting in different ways the cells. No, so it was developing a grid system, so you can co-localize the cells with the chips, etc. So it has been a very promising scientific research line. So with all of this background, I'm going to start with how we came up with a company after many years and trials and everything. So this is the first serendipity. This is the first thing that was good luck, but we needed some insight to take advantage of this good luck. So do you remember how the AFM tips were fabricated? The little pyramid underneath? Well, if you use different sizes, you can have different pyramids. And then if you continue, if you put a lot of these little spots on a wafer, and then you fabricate your AFM tips underneath, the idea was to generate a bunch of these little tips that are like these ones. But one day there was a failed etching, and it stopped because, well, RIAs are very finicky sometimes. And we ended up with this, with some tips that are sharp enough, but the microparticles still on its place. So it was like, we don't require then HF acid to dissolve anything that is underneath, because what happens is like, they're already almost free. No? So we can find a way to liberate them. So this is the first serendipity. Is like it failed during the etching, and then we said, we can actually create microparticles with defined size, with defined settings. So that's why it's like, no, this is actually not how to make AFM tips. This is how to make silicon oxide microparticles. And well, it was just a mistake, but it's like, taking into account that, it was a mistake, let's use this mistake. And then it's like, okay, these are microparticles. What if we could functionalize them to give them more of a function than just their material? So with this we use what it's called contact printing or sublithography. And we're able to develop or taking into account different technologies that have been already developed to pattern the top part of these cells. So you can create little patterns of proteins, antibodies, fluorophores, quantum dots, whatever you want to put on top of the surfaces on our microparticles. And then now that you saw that you can functionalize them, or we wanted to functionalize them, but you're printing on top of it, well, of course, this is the design part. Like, we know that if we do the RIA, we're going to generate the microparticles. Now let's do them exactly as we want. So we use a lot of simulation with the finite element analysis to design the device so that if you could move it on a lateral force, the stresses will concentrate underneath here, and it will just like break and liberate. No? And it has to be strong enough so that I can come and print it on top of it with this contact printing techniques that I told you, and then liberate them when I apply lateral force. Well, these are some results. Like, this is the microparticle on wafer sitting from on top with lines or pods with different proteins, antibodies, or this one that has even 3 different spots, and this spot is less than 1 micron each. So it was challenging, but it was very interesting. So it's like, okay, we can fabricate them so that they break when we put a lateral force. They're not going to break when we print them. How do we liberate these microparticles? Because they're on wafer still. So this is serendipity number 2. Because I spent around 1 year trying to tackle this issue. So how would you imagine you have this mushroom, we call them little mushrooms, but whatever. You have these little mushroom microparticles. How do you remove them from the wafer? By selectively breaking only this anchor, the foot, without damaging the super delicate proteins that are on top of it. So it's like brainstorming, saying like, okay, let's use scratching, like brute force. Of course, if you take a scalpel and then you start scratching it, you get a lot of debris, you break everything, and then you're never going to be able to purify the sample. It's just going to be a mess. So like, but we had to try, obviously. Huh? Like, oh, luckily it's going to break over there. It's going to be so selective. No, it's never like that. Then we're going to use adhesive tape. So it's like, oh, they got a Nobel Prize with graphene with this. Like, let's do it. No, of course not. It took all the functionalization, and it was. Yeah, it was. I mean, when you're desperate, you try everything. So it was kind of a long road. Then it's like, okay, once I waxed, and it was very painful. So it's like, okay, it's gonna be. Let's use this technology. Just some wax, let it harden, and then you spill it. The only thing is that, okay, yes, it did it, but then how do you take the cells out of the wax? It's like, I think if you wax, you never realize that you're not gonna get your hairs out of there. It's like just gonna stay there. So, not ideal. Ultrasounds, like, okay, I'm gonna like do something so that the ultrasounds inside create vortexes or whatever. Of course, it didn't work. It destroyed everything that was patterned on top of it. Thermal shock. When we generate this fabrication, as with the AFM, you have silicon, and then you have silicon oxide here. When they heat and cool, they have almost exactly, they dilate and they contract at the same rate, almost. So we're like, hopefully there's a little bit difference, or because the material is so thin in here. So I spent liters and liters of liquid nitrogen, and it didn't help. It eroded the surfaces. It started to boil because the sample is at 21 degrees. You put in liquid nitrogen, it boils, it destroyed everything. So no, not ideal. And then try to collect something for liquid nitrogen, also not ideal. And the last one that I was trying, and it was kind of ridiculous, but I learned a lot about ice, because the ice that you drink, even though it's an hexagonal like structure, if it has air inside, it generates like voids and it's fragile. And then my idea was, I'm gonna freeze it and then I'm gonna heat it from the side, so it's gonna like remove every single particle. But if you freeze it, you have air inside, and it was very complicated. So I learned a lot of about ice, and of course it didn't work. No? So what happened? I was just imagine that this is the substrate with the little mushrooms on top of it. I was just using it one day under the microscope, and these things are tiny. These are 3 by 3 microns, and then the spots are 1 micron. So I was using immersion oil to see these microparticles, and to see them better, I put a little bit of mounting media. It's a media that biologists use to fix cells. So I put there, and then I said, okay, I'm going to put a little cover slip so that it creates a perfect, to see it perfectly. Then you can put the oil on top of it, and then you can use immersion to have a 100x magnification. And I forgot about the sample like this one day, and then I just realized that it peels up like perfectly. And then the best part, this is water soluble. So I was just like able to put this little membrane, a floor mount, dissolved in water, and then I had the microparticles without damage, because this is designed so it doesn't damage the cells. So if it doesn't damage the cell, it doesn't damage my proteins. And that is how, basically how I fabricate them now is you have the microparticles, you put some functionalization, some chemical glue, cross-linker. You print them whatever you want. You want spots, lines, whatever. In this case, like multiplexing, like the image that I showed you, and then the liberation. And finally, you can dissolve it, and then and we call this functional multiplexed microparticles a suspended planar array, so SPAC chips. No? Because it's like a planar array, like the ones from DNA. Because if you were very good at printing, you could put little coordinates. So it's like a planar array, but it's suspended. So it's suspended planar array, and then chips, because of course we do nanotechnology, so we want to put chips in everything. Huh? And then it's like, let's gonna work on it now. Like now that we can fabricate them, like let's use them. No? So we put some sensors, pH sensors, and then put them inside living cells, and then we could see how cells were trying to correct their own pH when we were torturing them with different buffers. No? So they actually worked, and we got a nice publication some years ago. We're very happy about it. So it's like, okay, run. We're gonna get a patent to this, because this sounds promising. So first thing, I'm not a patent expert. So the first thing that I would recommend is talk with someone who knows, because writing a patent is horrible, and you never get the idea that you want to patent. It is never the one that you're going to patent at the end, because we're saying, oh, these are multiplexed suspended planar array chips, and they said, oh, what happens when it's a multiplexed huge chip? It has the same name. Yours is just smaller, so you cannot patent it through that way. So it was like coming and going, coming and going, coming. So eventually, what we were able to patent is just that it's a suspended planar array that is fixed, and then we break it. So it wasn't the idea. What it is, what gave us this patent at that moment is the idea that you fabricate them on wafer, you functionalize them, but then they have to be able to be released by breaking, selectively breaking this foot that is underneath. No? So like, okay, we got the patent, we were working, and finally it's like, okay, let's do the publication. So this was a very nice publication at the end. And with that publication and with that patent, it came like this another serendipity. Well, this is, I'm gonna call it serendipity. And in this case, it's Be Able Capital. This is a group that specializes in looking into the Spanish patent database to see if there's a promising new thing that has been developed and patented. Of course, this is a fund, so they work as a fund. They want to earn their money back. So I'm going to tell you a little bit later about this. But they contact us, and I still have like the first emails. Like it was in 2017, and it was like, "Hello, thank you for the phone calls. Like we are very, very interested in this technology." So that is May 2017. So we started like, "Oh, this is quite interesting. Like my part of a PhD could be part of a company." And then, well, you know, it's like a little snowball that starts to grow. And so we had a phone call at that time. And well, now I'm going to go a little bit fast with the company, but then I'm going to explain more in depth about the things. So remember, that was May 2017. So by June of that same year, there was a due diligence. What happened? Well, this group, Be Able, and us, we started to see if this is worth creating a spin-off around. So you have to have an idea of what is the market and what size is this market, because maybe there's a market, but it's like a market for Rolls Royce. I mean, you can sell 100 Rolls Royce per year. No, I mean, you can have a company, but is it worth it going to all that trouble to sell only 100 cars per year? Maybe yes, maybe not. So this month, a couple of months later, the due diligence after all these studies were done was passed. And then I want you to be a little bit like, during this time, of course, we started to continue because we were talking about developing the minimum product that could be delivered and how we're going to spend the money if we eventually got the money to create the company. So look at this date. So 7 months later, this is January 23rd. We contacted with our lawyer because we realized that we didn't have a lawyer. So that's also an important thing that I want to tell you. It's like, if you don't know about things, ask someone who knows. Why do I put the word drama there? Well, the thing is that this is January 23rd. We had to sign the contract of setting up this company on 6th of February. So we contacted our lawyer with 10 days before, no, or less than 10 days before we signed the foundation of the company. So this is part of the group. This is Jose Antonio Plaza. He's the PI of the Micro Nanotools group with Marta. She's the head of microsystems in the CNN. Jaume is also a professor in our institute. That's Alberto. He's from the biological part. He's from the Institute Margarita Salas in Madrid, and that's me. So we all came together like, they're talking about a lot of legal terms. We got the contract, and there's a lot of language. Like as with the patent, that you don't use that language. You don't use the language normally because if you're studying nanoscience, you don't use the language that lawyers use. And we got a 90-page contract with this kind of language. So it's at that moment in January, like, okay, let's ask for someone who knows. So what was the drama? The thing is that, of course, when she read the contract, our lawyer, she said, like, I mean, I know that they want to create a company, but I think they're taking advantage of you in several things. So the drama part was, we were sitting the day of the signature. We didn't want to go to sign at the moment because we wanted everything to be very clear. And the only thing that I regret is not bringing popcorn, because you could see their lawyers and our lawyer. It was like a soap opera. It was quite frenetic. This is a no-go. We're not gonna sign. Well, don't sign. Go away. And they were running and going out. I was like, is this how a spin-off is like? Shouldn't we like all be happy and it's like, oh yeah, opening the champagne, we founded a new spin-off? No, it was a bit very dramatic because we weren't informed or we didn't go together. So the first thing that I would like to transmit is get your, let's say, everything in order, get expert advice, and then go with it. But go, it's very nice. Now I see it and I'm laughing, but at that moment I was, well, you can see the anxiety level, no? So with that moment, we got a 500,000 euros seed money to create this company. So this money was to hire someone to start doing the minimal viable product, and to found a company. To create a company, it's expensive. No, you have to have a lot of background with the company. So that money helped us gave us the money to start this company. So talking about not being an expert, who knows how to run a company? Scientists? I don't know. Professors? They don't know, because it's not their work their job to know. They are very good at what they do, unless they are like super like a genius who can do everything. Most of us, we cannot do all those things because we're not specialized into them. So we needed someone who can actually like create a company. The first one, it was just like a spin-off. It was just like, let's try with this, let's try with that, blah, blah, blah. No, we need someone who can give us direction and advice and that knows the market. So luckily with us, or luckily for the company also, A4Cells and A4Cells is the name of the company. A4Cells and they came together and they found Elena Rivas. She started as the CEO of the company. She was always in biotech, so it was a perfect addition. She's a machina. She's very good. She's been the CEO since that time. With that, she started to look for funding, because biotechnology it is very, very expensive. It is ridiculously expensive. So if you want to create a spin-off with nanomaterials, it's cheap because you can just fabricate more nanomaterials. In this, you have to test with cells. You have to go with laboratories, biocompatibility, permissions, because it's a living thing. And then if you want to do it in something, it's bigger than we could ever imagine. So luckily for that, Elena got in contact with Sedeti, and we got a first investment from them. This is another interesting part. It gives you, having the Spanish government as an investor, it gives you kind of a medal that shows like, you see, I'm serious about it. I'm going to do something with this company. And then you can go and ask for projects and ask for loans and to contact people. So more than just the money, which is a lot, good, no? That we have this money, but it gives you like an aval, no? Like something to show that you are a serious company. But then it comes with some trade-offs, and then it's like you have to reformat everything because this is public money. So like there are gonna be inquiries about where the money is spent. How are you spending it? Where is it coming from? The company cannot be owned by any foreigner. It comes with certain setbacks that you have to see if you're willing to take them. No? In our case, like anti-laundering money, of course you're gonna take it. I mean, we're not gonna launder money. But then it's like, if we want some foreigner to invest in our company, it's complicated. Yeah? So you have to be very smart about these little parts. No, little parts. 1 million euros, not little. And a year later, there was the first product. So you can see 2017, and the first product was sent in 2021. I mean, there was pandemic and everything, but still, it took some years since the due diligence, since having your idea into the first product, no? And it's a very nice thing. This is thanks to mostly Elena Rivas. She said, like, this is a biotech company. We are serious. It's an expensive thing because it's very specific for a certain use. So we have to make it beautiful. We have to make it functional. We have to make it that people like it. Also, packaging and everything, it also comes in this. I'm not expert. I just receive an Eppendorf as a scientist. You're going to open the Eppendorf, mix it, and then put it in your cells. But everything that comes around makes the brand. So that was another important thing. Like, we have to make it a brand, like something that people want to buy, not just because it's useful, but because it represents something. No? So that is also a very important thing. Well, getting closer to today, there was another investment round. This is Ideas de Bombero. It's a family office from another super scientist who sold his patent to his company to a German manufacturing, and he had some money. And he said, I was able to do it. I would like to offer my expertise, my money, in a product that I believe that it could be also big as mine. That's why I'm having this. I have this family office, no? Because I was smart enough to get it. I would like to be part of this group. So it's called Ideas de Bomberos, like crazy ideas. And with that money, the company was able to create its own fabrication facilities. It's in the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. And now they have like their actual laboratory with technicians and everything doing all the fabrication for this product. It is important because most of the work was done inside the Margarita Salas Institute in Madrid, which is not ideal. So or next to it. So with these facilities, you can control everything. You can track all of your resources, and you can generate a product that is continuously coming out correctly. No? A little bit later, in October of the next year, there was another big investment. In this case, there are 3 million euros divided into 3 years, so it's 1 million per year, by an American company. So that's another problem that happened. According to Sedeti, no foreign company can be part of your company. But 3 million euros is very juicy, and we need it. Of course, you need, because I told you it's very expensive biotechnology. So what happened after, like, okay, we need this money, how we're gonna go this? So contact your lawyers, contact another kind of lawyer, because these are lawyers that are specialized in these kind of things. And then a little bit later, well, we created a A4Cells Corp in Boston. So there's an alternative. We are still a Spanish company, but we have a subsidiary in the United States. And the money can be funneled to this company because it's the same name, but it's another company, it's in another country. And the good thing is that Elena got me in touch with these kind of people. These are very, very, very serious people. And what we liked about this group is, like, we don't want to start selling immediately. No, we want to generate knowledge. We want to create a lot of products that are going to be, well, a lot of solutions that are then going to be products. That is why we are investing in you. And there are certain things that had to happen to get all the 3 million euros. So every single year there's a review of the advances of the company. But the first one is, like, to set up an American subsidiary. They have contacts with, I think it's Harvard, and they're working in the Harvard laboratory to develop the new products that are going to be sold in the company. We're going to see later, because that is a question that I have, is who owns this, the patents or all of the information that is developed with this? Is it the American version or the Spanish one? We'll see. So talk with lawyers. It's going to be sketchy at the moment. So it's easy. Perfect. No lawyers. Well, we'll tell me later. So that is up to this year. So you can see that it started with an email, and then it's just like, it's a snowball that continues. If you are willing to go there were many hours, of course, a lot of stress, a lot of drama, but then it starts to get bigger than what you expected it to be. In my like in the big scheme of things, is like, if you want to do something, do it with someone else. And if you do not know, get the correct people to learn. Lawyers, scientists, advisors. So surround yourself with someone who believes in your thing, and that even if they're not giving money, at least some advice or some like side that you are not seeing is very important. No? So this is what the company is a ready-for-cell nanotechnology, and the descriptor of this technology is like an eye inside the cell. No? You can see what's happening in a living cell with the chips that were part of my PhD. So that's like, oh, it's very cool. No? That, with this functionalization, so you can measure different parameters inside of the cell. No? This is a tiny video just to show you how, for example, this is a small samples. These are the cells that are eating. Well, they're internalizing the chips, so that then you can measure different parameters inside of them. No? So this is basically one of the applications that they have. If you are interested, then I can tell you why our devices are better than the things that are currently in the market. And the company, well, has created these chips for different applications, for cellular tissues, for organoids, which are like small organs, and for, well, so many different kinds of cells and different kind of measurement. No? So they are, I mean, it's a solution of something that we didn't know we wanted and we needed. And what do I do in the company? Because like we have a CEO, we have fabrication, they're in Madrid, now they're in the United States. What do I do in Barcelona? The thing is that I still fabricate these devices. So the company still has some of my work. In every single kit that is sold, I was there fabricating these kind of devices. And the thing is that I guess it happens like here, we are public institutes. We cannot sell stuff because you're gonna do a purchase order. But luckily, they have a very well thought idea of our institute that they have the master microelectronica, AIE. I don't remember the initials, but it's like it's a company that can sell, and it depends of a public institute. So we can sell our devices to another company. We can make the facturas correctly, and so this company that is inside our institute is the one that sells these wafers to our own company. So this is we have a supply agreement for several years of these kind of devices for the SPAD chip technology that is now as a registered device in technology. And well, because I told you, that to create a brand, to create an idea of what are you selling, these are the products that the company is selling. In this case, are the SPAD chips for cyto, because they're from cytoplasm. So you're checking the cytoplasm of the cells. For pH at different wavelengths, well, because sometimes you cannot, the emission of your fluorophore can overlap with one of the things that you're measuring. So there are two colors or both at the same time. So if you see yellow, it's because it's there. For calcium, because there's a lot of research in the entrance and exit of calcium ions inside living cells. Calcium pH. The newest one is reactive oxygen species, because, well, as you know, we're going to die because oxygen is going to kill us because it's generating these reactive oxygen species. So this is a way to measure or to see if there's any kind of expression of this oxygen species. And last one is for the spherocheck. This is for these organoids or spheroids. It's a technology that is used to see inside of these like little floating pieces of tissue that have been developed to create mostly like for organ on a chip applications or things like that. It's like a big thick tissue, and then if you want to see what's happening inside, you need different technologies done on a flat culture of cells. Well, the team, this is the team that is now currently working at the company. So I was just doing like this during the PhD. Now they have like 20-something people working with CEO, CTO, CPO, blah, 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 blah. I don't really know all this thing. A lot of technicians, because it's labor intensive to create these kind of devices, because you need specialized people, because you need to align to less than 1 micron who can do that. Huh? And the last one is, I don't remember his name, but over there, he's the representative of the company in the United States. So it has continued growing. And with that, I'm almost getting to the end. I don't know, you're too young. I'm from another country, so I'm not very sure of this, but I know here that there was this show called Eras una vez la vida. And it explained about, well, like life things with these little animations. Yeah, you know the song? Awesome. But instead of Eras una vez la, once upon a time life, is instead of once upon a time life, is once upon a time a forgotten sample in the fridge over a month. What happened? Well, when they were working with these chips in a cell, they realized that the SPA chips with the functionalization lasted for over a month inside the living cell. So we're like, oh, what happened? So at that moment, it was a pandemic. And it's like, we have this very like long-lasting device, it says pandemic, a very long-lasting device inside living cell that is continuously working. And there's a pandemic, it's like, why at that moment, it's like, oh, I just got a dose. No, I just got 2. Like, oh, no, I'm gonna get the booster of the one. Is like, and people like, you heard like this guy who got like 150 vaccines. Like, well, what if we just come together with a bunch of smart people and create the ICAR project, which is just a way to say we're gonna bring a vaccine that is very long lasting. Instead of having boosters, you have a vaccine that continuously leaches out the antigen that is going to be measured, that's going to react your body towards. And so this is a European project that is just currently, it's just the funny part, the last part of the project that, so all of these companies institutes came together to see if we could develop this kind of vaccine. So you don't have to have a booster or a third or a fourth, and just with the single one, using the SPA chip technology, because it lasts for long. And then prevent the amount of shots that you have to receive. No? And just coming to the end of this talk, this is a very new there's a newspaper that just came a couple of months ago. And Elena, our CEO, she was interviewed because, I don't know if you have heard about Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes, anyone else here, do you know what's that? Well, she was this very smart lady who basically stole all she created an idea that she could do something so big, and she was never able to do it, but she defrauded a lot of people, like billions. It was a company that was worth $9 billion, and in a couple of years it was 0 because she lied. So a lot of people are very scared about investing in biotechnology because she said, with a single drop of your blood, I can measure like 200 something diseases or problems that your body could have with a single drop. And she lied. And she lied for several years. She's in jail. She's in jail in trial or something because she was pregnant, so she couldn't be in jail. So it was very interesting to say that it is very hard to get, it is a complicated sector, no? Biotechnology, because people are afraid of Theranos 2.0. No? So just, it's another thing that I would like to transmit. It's hard. When you are applying to a certain, let's call it fields, this is a field, a hard field, because there's a history of people abusing the field. No? So basically, I'm here, or we are here, waiting, searching, or identifying new serendipities, because you never know what's going to happen. With that, I just want to thank you and just some acknowledgement, my group, the A4Cells, and people who work very involved in giving us the opportunity to take our technology, our patents, and then to create a company. So thank you very much.
So, yes, 1 second. Okay. First of all, thank you for the talk. Super inspiring and with a lot of different questions about the science, investment, creation of a company. There are a lot of things. I would like to ask if there is any questions in the audience. Questions from the floor. You have a very good chance to ask people who has gone through a very, very complicated field. So yes, not only and also not only about the creation of a spin-off, but also the technology is super interesting. So maybe it's something that is closer to your field. Don't fear, don't be afraid. If not, I have a lot of questions. But okay, here we have a question.
Nice talk and nice trip also for the company. And my question is related, what's the state now of the company? It's now a proof of concept, or is entering into a market, or this will be the market?
Exactly. Well, as a proof of concept, that was one of the first things that we have to show that it was functional in 2019, more or less, before the pandemic. And from that, we got the first investment. So it's a company that is already in the market. We have distributors. So you find, well, there are in Europe, United States, Japan, and I think Southern Pacific. They're already distributed, and you can actually buy the product. The thing is that, as I told you, we had this last round of investment. While we're continuing selling, or while the company is still selling these devices and is focused on creating, they are also creating new intellectual property or different services with the technology that we have. So it's a little rearrangement also, because now the company is offering cell studies. You can come and you can say, these are my cells, do the thing that you wanted me to measure, do it yourself, and then charge me something. Like it's another business, or a side business that has appeared. And another one is that all these probes that measure the things that shine, the 404s, the pH one, the calcium ones, and everything, some of them are commercials, and the other ones have been developed in-house. So it's another something that we didn't thought that it was going to happen, but eventually we require them to be, because you cannot depend on the commercial thing. So it's not longer a proof of concept. The concept works, and we have devices that can be already sold and purchased if you really want them.
Pilar?
Yes, I have a question more related to the daily life. How did you decouple your role in the company from the role in your national projects or in the European projects? It's very easy, or there's always a...
Well, first of all, this was, I got a little goosebumps, because in retrospect, when they told us, like, you're going to build a company, you're going to lose in science. I mean, in science, in research. And if you're going to focus on this thing, you cannot focus on the other one. Are you willing to do that trade-off? And of course, now it's very simple, because I just have to fabricate these things, these wafers. It's like, well, we need 48 wafers, so I have to just, in our institute works, and I don't know if it works like here, we have people who do the fabrication. I just have to go and characterize it. So it's very simple. It's like I just create, we call it runs. We create a run, and like, no, I don't have to do that. But some years ago, I was the one who was in charge of seeing if this cross-linker was functioning, how to print sub-micrometer spots. And that is it's very hard. It's very like technologically and time consuming. So at that moment, I couldn't decouple. It was just, I do this or I do that. So I have a little gap in my, let's say, research, because I came into terms with the institute and said, I know that I'm in a public institute, but this company is also, at that moment, the institute could be part of the company also. So it's like, I'm also doing it for the institute. So is there a problem? Like, as long as you do your research and you, with your European or national projects, as long as you continue doing the things that you can continue working here with our, let's say, facilities, but don't neglect it. It was hard, a lot of, anxiety and problems, something like that, but now I can decouple. It's very simple. The company goes, they have all the CCC, and the company doing the things, and now I can decouple. But at that moment, no. That was a trade-off that I willingly took.
But still the science is in your group. I mean, also in Boston, on Harvard, but still you are supplying science to the company.
Yes. For example, we have a product that is a collaboration público-privado. And the thing is that, for example, there's a patent that if we do certain things, they could infringe it. So they called us, like, we have this público-privado, we want to develop a new system. You want to go? So it's like, we have to define who's the owner of the research. Basically, CSIC never leaves it. If you are CSIC, the knowledge is for CSIC, and then you generate a protection, and then you license it to it. So that is how it says, like, okay, it's our. For example, I still use the same chemistry that they use for it. They have they have done the things which I do not know, because the company knows this knowledge. to include, for example, the reactive oxygen species. I do not know how they fix it on the surface. The other ones I could tell you, or I can give you more or less of an insight because the company is based on my chemistry at that moment. But now they have done it their own way, which it should be done. It should be like that. You have to let the company grow and to start testing all the other things that they are willing to sell, the solutions that are going to sell eventually, later.
Yeah, there's more questions. We have opened a lot of different questions for me.
Sure.
Now it's my turn. I wanted to know because it's very impressive. First of all, I can tell you it's really, really difficult to raise such a huge amount of money that they have done. So it's not very easy. Maybe in the States or in Europe, you can raise a lot of 3 million euros. Not easily, but you can do it. But in Spain, it's quite hard. So one of my questions is this. Your institute was part of the company from the beginning? Because this is what I've understood.
The institute had the chance to become a partner.
Had the chance. But they enter or not at the beginning?
No, because CSIC is CSIC. I don't know.
No. Yes, sorry. Just for question. We are recording. Just to inform you.
No. I mean, I love the institute. I love everything, and I want to stay there. No? But now with Chávez, the people that I was thinking at the end, they're trying to find a way to convince the CSIC Central to at least keep a little bit of money as a pool to invest or become a partner in the companies that they have been created with the institute, with the council, the research council. So the institute had before, it was one of the things that our lawyer put that was very famous, like, and the institute, what about this? It's like, she said, until the company has a post-money value of, I don't remember the amount of 5 million or something like that, the CSIC can enter with this amount of, with a percentage of the table, no? All of these languages, if you don't understand, ask me. The table is like, who is the percentage of ownership? So there was like some part of this ownership that wasn't set up to anyone, and there was an option, a purchase option, but without money, no? Like, it could be yours, but the CSIC never wanted to apply for this. And in contrary, like after the company is worth more than this, these shares are going to be distributed in this other sort of way. Phantom shares for the CEO, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. All of this language, I didn't know, now you know it, and it was a hard thing. So if you want to learn about a company, learn about phantom shares, the cap table, investment rounds, pre-money value, post-money value, because those things don't really make a lot of sense until they do. It's complicated.
Yeah. And also, just one of my questions was related with the first question is, how much do you have about your revenues of the company last year, for example? Because, okay, one of my questions here is that when people give you money, they want money back.
Okay, exactly.
And what are they asking for you? So what is your revenues, if it's something that is public or you can tell?
I don't really know the money.
Around it, because if they asking for millions of euros every year, or they are asking for
no. Luckily for it, no. Now I think the company maintains it. So they can pay the salaries for the moment.
With 25, it's a huge amount of money. I can say.
Well, or at least maybe the production part of the company. I don't really have exact number. No, I have another problem because when I did the patent, I was with the University of Barcelona, and then they renounced to the patent. So I'm an inventor, but I'm no longer in this patent. So I don't get any money from the patent licensing because also things, no? So, and the thing is that with CSIC, also the patent, well, the money that comes from the, what's the name of the term? Well,
royalties.
The royalties, exactly. The royalties is like, it's like a tree that has very, very deep roots, and I'm very like down there. It's like 50% goes to it's like 20% goes to the CSIC Central, the other ones goes to the other one. So it starts to become like smaller and smaller, and then 20% to the institute, 20% to the group, and from that it gets like, so like, yeah, the CSIC is a little so I think last year I got
here is better. Yes, for you here is much better. So just keep on trying.
Because I think I got like 16 euros.
No.
And they would because I wasn't allowed, because I'm not part of the patent. Because I'm part of the patent, I'm an inventor, but because I did it through the University of Barcelona, and then they didn't pay. Well, they said they didn't want it anymore. Only the CSIC part is the one that is legally entitled to get the money. So yeah,
no, I mean, just the message for the people. It's a nightmare, but it is worthy. So I mean, you can do it. At the end, it's worthy. And just my final last question. Yes, it's a technical one. And I'm just working with S4Ites, and you have mentioned that you have a new product, yes, for S4Ites, but those nanoparticles are inside the S4Ite or just between the cells. So that's a technical question.
In theory, all of these chips, well, you put them outside, but then the cells
Internalize them.
yeah. The process of internalization is still up to debate. We don't know if it's endocytosis, phagocytosis, pinocytosis. We don't really know because cells are cells. No? I mean, it's like they create something, but is it like endocytosis, or is it like, are they creating a backbone and is it phagocytosis, or is it like they're throwing something for pinocytosis? They're inside. With the organoid, I can check it out for you because I don't really know. They're going to be outside, but they're also going to be inside. So
it's
organoids, S4Ites,
like a technical question.
Yeah.
And yes, I told you that I was going to tell you the answer. The answer is patent box.
Patent box.
Yeah, I will explain later. So if there is no other questions, maybe you have your last chance. No? First, I don't know if there is any other questions from the audience. Not here. No one in the chat. So thank you again for coming. It was a pleasure to hear you, and thanks again.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
¿O me quedo solo? No sé si he tocado bien el... Hola. Hola.